the lovely 5D mystics. As the retrograde season keeps moving forward, you get to come together and build those mindful relationships. And with that in mind, a 5D mystic or an Enlightenment soul age group person, a functional adult, that's somebody who is connected to their own heaven in the body, the Purusha Prakriti, the unconditionally loving awareness of oneself and this beautiful field. It's not supernatural. We don't have any entity that is above or below. We, in fact, don't believe in evil, devil, stuff like that. We use our lovely scientific methodology, so all the good 5D educators, to keep it in check. And what we're finding out is that all human beings are mammals. We have a mammalian heritage, and our brain works a certain way when we're able to be in the optimized inner well-being of us, which is integrated brain. Left, right mode together, they make a very beautiful pair because they're all hands on deck and our default mode network is downregulated. And so we're not scanning others in the self in an effort to say, should I be engaging in my ventral vagal or not? No, 5D mystics automatically know if you have no weapon in your hand, you're not a danger. We lead with compassion always. The people who come over, it's once they're out of their defectiveness, shame, heartbreak, gut wrench, torn apart, unresolved trauma experiences. When they get out of the human suffering component, here's where some don't choose to do that. We have 4D, 3D planes for a reason, and all pieces of consciousness are essentially a part of the same whole. And that's where education, we won't ever be able to learn everything. There's so much of it. And so we have specialized one focused mindsets for reasons. The ones who are enamored with themselves, they could, get out of their ego, but they actually lead the way for the ones who want to copy them. Because see, some people don't move into, I'm going to be my own Zen master. They have a Zen master. It's two different stories. And they look up to them. So this is where unresolved trauma equates a non-differentiated self, and also a person who can have what I love Patrick Tiahan, as he points out, LICSW, hurt people. And he's like, this sentence irritates me. He's a childhood trauma survivor, now a therapist who helps people with their own trauma. And he says it really should be hurt people should do their work. And I agree with Patrick, especially because hurt people don't know they don't have a range of mature relationship with their emotions. So when they do their transference, which they do with people like myself and other 5D mystics, it's not nice. As a kid, I knew something was up. As Patrick points out, though, we didn't have YouTube and a lot of other good information. So, of course, all I knew was the basic psych. And in fact, what I said was, they're insecure emotionally. They're all teenagers, and they all have egos, but somehow no one seems to want to own up to it. Lo and behold, we move forward and we love more. The 5D mystics don't cancel people out. We add to our oversoul. And the group that we're building, by the way, is a mixed one. So if you don't know the term, it's okay. But Claire's channeled guidance, and this is where today we have a little bit of that going on. Because, again, we do have, and I'm going to change my setup at some point for the readings. But we do have some retrograde going on, and using your own mind is what allows you to create. Furthermore, 5D only brings together. We don't do separation at all, ever. In fact, whenever somebody wants us to be a part of their group and they don't like that we're not, they start to do the whole adaptive child bit, which is they want to prove they're right. So we get to hear their list of confirmation biases of why we should be nasty to somebody who didn't do anything. Somebody looks at me, I'm not going to assume, oh my gosh, they're looking at me weird. I don't have emotional insecurity. Other people do. As Patrick says, hurt people should work on their hurt. And it's very important because what arises from your body is actually yours from unresolved trauma sometimes, charged states, a lot of other things we talk about. But let me put the psychoeducation to the side. Oh, and pseudoscience lady, by the way. And I'm okay with that because I'm not trying to be empirical. I actually help people who want to be helped to become their best version, because being yourself is awesome. And understanding that yourself is a restorative embodied self and an integrated brain, very awesome, very basic, very simple, very straightforward. However, it is a painful process to move out of dysregulation and modulation because the trauma feels heartbreak, gut wrench, torn apart. So let me share a note. That's why we have 4D, 3D. That's why we have these other people who are half, quote unquote, assing it. But that's only, again, quote unquote. It's because we have different soul age groups. Not everyone moves into the Enlightenment Soul Age group. And we use information to organize, not label. The 5D doesn't use label. I use words like anybody else, but my community is independently coming together, understanding. We are creating a way to be able to understand the in-between, because we are in the in-between. Now, neuroscience explains why we can channel guidance, why we have these clairs, if you will, the part of selflessness, timelessness, effortlessness, and richness. There's a way that we already can know. I know some of it. I'm still learning more of it. Why and how our brain becomes a conduit. It's amazing. So we also have an energy body, and it expands, which is also made. I've had light body 3 or 4, rainbow body, and then my energy field keeps expanding. So the community here is for people who love people, who are people. You have infinite higher human consciousness potential experiences if you move into aligning with your own heaven in the body. Purusha Prakriti connection isn't hard. You maintain awareness of your physical, mental, energetic, the inner holding your values, and then the heart body. You know how many people do yoga or Ayurveda or any holistic and they don't love each other? And they say, next lifetime. Yeah, that's not a 5D mystic. That's a person whose adaptive child has unresolved trauma and is choosing to use the cop-out next lifetime, kind of like hurt people hurt people. Now, it's not a cop-out, though, because some people, they actually don't want to do the work. And again, even the therapists that I get to learn from, they say they have to negotiate with their clients to have them stay, because getting out of hell means walking up a ladder that burns. 4D community separates people by talking about soul contracts, karmics, and a lot of other words that they should really, energy vampires, dark auras, they should disengage. Why? Because they obviously don't know enough about mental health for real. If they did, then they'd know how to associate what they're dealing with, which is somebody who is hurt, who at most needs help. So when we look at a scale of evil, Michael Stone, forensic criminologist from one of the universities in America, 1 to 22, they're all people that could make use of a good therapist. That means somebody who is compassionate beyond a reason, who can give them the psychoeducation of what a shame defectiveness button is, how it feels torn apart inside, and this tsunami is not having emotional maturity with the spectrum of emotions, so feeling really overwhelmed. There's a window of tolerance, and there's not the ability to, how do I use it? So there's the automatic thinking from an anger spot, because your body's going to protect you from overwhelming emotions like it did when you were a kid, an infant. And your 0 to 7 months of years, only the right brain was online. Then 7 months to 1 year is, I remember the first years were right brain mode only. So your sensations or any of that side of the brain is what's developing. Then the rest comes online. The left, this is how they explain it. I'm doing the gist of it. That's why I'm pseudoscience lady. And I can give you sources to where you can find the good way of explaining it. But my point is, let me use for a minute Sadhguru too. The mind is not only memory. It is a window to consciousness. Memory is only accumulated information. Consciousness contains the whole cosmos. Okay, so for 5D mystics, we are amazed and love being a human experience. We're human beings. We don't talk about ourselves as spirituality processes. We hear the words. I hear the words. We bring it all together. And so this is the community. We build mindful relationships because we care about each other. Our oversoul expands, not diminishes. And when we're dealing with anybody who has unresolved trauma, the hurt people thing, we know it, which is why we leave it alone. But the reality is they could get help. They could get work. They could do something. They don't want to. You know what they do? They watch the movies who make it look normal to wake up in the morning and get all, if Bill or Janet or whatever comes to me today, I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. Like, this is something people do. Now, it's not about not being able to experience all the range of emotions. There's a difference. And that's why the difference of an integrated brain, which is where a 5D person can explain it, I can explain. I don't have human suffering. I don't have this thing that I get angry. If somebody hurts my feelings, quote unquote, I feel sad. And that's about it. If I get mad, I feel mad. But the conversation is a conversation, not a shame, blame, fault, revenge. We don't do. The adoptive children don't do repair. They do this. And then they're blinded. So at the end of the day, they don't tap into heaven in the body because they don't align themselves. We can support those who do want to align themselves to expand consciousness together. That's what we're here to do, is to grow up. So functional adults, I'm creating a group of us We get to use information independently, all of it, human, spiritual, and spirituality. We're not competing with anyone. These are subject matters that we learn from.